All right, man.
Appreciate you. Cool. Welcome back to another episode of Sportswrap Sit-Downs. We are here in Ashburn, Virginia at the Washington Commanders training facility. Joining us today, someone who has a very close ear and eye to the Washington Commanders.
Off the top, it's got to be ears.
Unintentional. Host of the B. Mitch and Finlay show on 106.7 The Fan, weekdays from 10 to 2. Also with our sister station, NBC4 in Washington, D.C. That would be JP Finlay. JP, I appreciate the time, brother.
Yeah,
First things first, with training camp, the Commander Standard has been the way that Dan Quinn has advertised this roster this year. Why do you think that is?
I mean, I think it started when he got here, right? I think you got to put Adam Peters in that pile too, and those two talked about. AP talked about it the day he got hired, way back, I don't know, last February probably, maybe it was even January. I think he was January and then Quinn was February, that they are going to bring the same effort, communication, direction every day, and that the players that are here are going to do the same, and the guys that wouldn't be here. And you saw it in year one, you saw the success they had, and now they're just able to grow and build on that, right? Like, helps when you get a transformational, generational quarterback in the draft. And I think when you have veterans that come so hard every day in Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, there's a reason Von Miller wanted to come here. Honestly, Terry McLaurin's a big part of that, even though he's not here right now. But Jaden's a huge part of that. I mean, the O-line, the D-line, like, these guys are all here to work, and it's really interesting that Quinn and Peters, but more so Quinn, especially on the day-to-day, they're able to create this culture where everybody is just working their butt off, but also having fun. Like, it's. I was here 2 summers ago, I think it was 2 summers ago, when Eric Bieniemy came in, and he was just such a drill sergeant, right? And at first it was cool, and then you could see it just kind of wore people down and grated on them. And this staff, you hear some yelling here and there, certainly, it's football practice, but like, there is this commitment to working as hard as you possibly can, but everybody wants to. And it's a tricky balance, and they've pulled it off so far.
How long have you been covering the team for?
Bro, so the first time I came out here on a media badge, which was RG3's rookie season, and then I think I was full-time on the beat starting in I want to say 15 or 16, something like that.
You've seen 10 years worth of Washington football teams, literally the Washington football team, and then moving into the Commanders. What's been so different, and how much of a joy has it been following the team to the NFC Championship last year?
Oh, dude, I mean, so you got to almost like separate the differences, because there's a way like the operation is run, like the ownership, how they treat media, just how things are run, right, is night and day different. And that has nothing to do with the football product. Like, they even really started a lot of that. You know, Harris's first year of ownership was Ron's last year, and the football was terrible, but you did start to see the changes in how they approached just my actual work life, right? And people don't care about that stuff, but it makes a huge difference to me. Last year, you know, once the Harris group had their arms fully wrapped around this thing, you really start to see the implementation of lots of changes. I mean, they're spending money like crazy. I had a buddy send me a clip from Northwest Stadium, and we hear about the money they're spending over there. And obviously everybody remembers the famous, they said it was a rain pipe started leaking on fans. There's lots of other claims of what was leaking on fans, but everybody remembers that, right? Yeah. And dude, I mean, they're almost at the end zone with the RFK Stadium deal. Like, if everything breaks right, they're out of Northwest Stadium in 5 years. Yeah. But a friend of mine that was over there sent me a video. They're going through and replacing all the piping. Like, they're putting in the PVC piping, and that is something fans would never know. It's like an offensive lineman. Like, most of the time, you only hear an offensive lineman's name when they're in trouble. Like, nobody thinks about the piping, right? Unless it starts raining, unless it starts leaking rainwater on people. And they're leaving that stadium. Like, they're leaving. They could just try to throw some Band-Aids up and keep it going, but they're replacing all of it because they know it's outdated and faulty, and they don't want another rainwater episode. So that's just like the type of operation. Then you get to the football of last year, and there's a zillion factors, but Jaden changed everything. Right. I mean, there have been some good quarterbacks. I don't want to belittle. I mean, Kirk was pretty good. Robert had a rocket ship of a rookie year. Rippon was incredible. Doug, Joe T. There have been some great quarterbacks here, but there hasn't been consistently great quarterback play. Getting a quarterback of his caliber changes everything for a football organization. Like there's a reason the Ravens, the Chiefs, and the Bills have been the front runners in the AFC for most of the last decade or whatever.
Yeah.
Like when you get one of those dudes, it changes everything. You know what I mean? And I think from a football perspective, Washington now has one of those dudes. So all the conversation about what they can do changes everything. And they hit a lot of home runs, I think, in building their team last year. Samerstill was a great pick. I think the addition of Wagner and Luvu were both great last year. Ertz was great. So like they made a lot of really good moves. I think the way Dan Quinn coaches what he calls winning time moments, those late game situations. I know that people try to. There's always naysayers, right? So they try to dismiss some of the Commanders' success last year as luck. And sure, like a Hail Mary's lucky. Like to win the playoff game in Tampa, the ball kicks in off the field goal post. Maybe that's
you
lucky.
need that for winning football sometimes.
Sure, but I think a lot of what they did late in games, like, is the touchdown drive to beat Philly at home, to beat Atlanta at home, was that lucky, or is that just they coached that? They actually have hired this dude Dave Gardy to be in charge of clock situations late in games. Not every team does that. And then you add a dude as poised as Jaden Daniels. Like, I don't think that much of it is luck. Yeah. I think they built for that. They prepare for that.
When you talk about the age of the roster, does 27 and a half years old bug you at all? Or do you like the narrative around the Commanders being the oldest team in the NFL?
So, I'm not a math guy. Averages, medians, whatever. I'm kicking this chair over, sorry. I'm trying to balance this water bottle. It's hot as hell. You haven't mentioned that
super
yet? So the age of the roster thing, you have 5 dudes that are over 30 that if everything breaks right, play. Do you know who the oldest player on the team is?
Who's the oldest player on the team?
Josh Johnson is 39.
Oh, yeah, the fourth-string quarterback on the team.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, in an ideal situation, that dude doesn't play a snap.
Yeah.
But having a 39-year-old on your roster, when you do the math, is going to drive it way up.
Yeah.
Tress is 36.
Yep.
I think Ott is 33. Mariota's 31. I mean, those 4 dudes are going to shoot the numbers up.
So guys who aren't literally on the field all the time.
Right.
Right.
Now, I'm not taking away that Wagner, Ertz, Miller, the guys you are going to count on for roles are well into their 30s. Marshawn Lattimore, Deebo Samuel, like, it's not a young roster. I think you balance that out with a second-year stud quarterback, and ideally they start to get more out of these draft classes. And I think a lot of the age on the roster is determined by 4 years of really bad drafting by Ron Rivera. And so, I mean, they don't have a single first-rounder from those 4 years, right? And you can go down the roster, and there's just not a lot left over. So you do have to fill out the roster also. But if you look at where AP's come from, came up in New England with Belichick. They weren't scared of veteran players.
Right.
Denver, when they had their success,
they were pretty old.
They had youth in spots. I mean, you have a young Von Miller then, and dominates the Super Bowl, you're going to win one. But they weren't scared of veteran players.
Yeah, Peyton was on his last legs.
Right. And you look at the Niners, dude. I mean, the Niners, one thing with this Terry situation, like, AP's been through these contentious contract extensions. Generally, when you've been through those, because you have really good players getting second or third contracts. So, like, I don't think great rosters are necessarily driven by what the median age is. You need a mix of everything, and I'm not particularly taken aback by the 27.2 average age? No.
At Camp Community College, we think big. Your future is now. Fall registration is open. Classes start August 21st. Believe in your future. Grow with PDC. Apply at pdc.edu/growmyfuture.
You just the buzzword you used with Terry's contract is contentious.
Yeah.
Right. And
I think it's there.
I saw on your Instagram. You said not good in big capital letters.
That was a TikTok, baby. Follow me on TikTok. I'm coming for the Gen Z.
The plug. And then Adam Schefter said he wasn't really super concerned about it, and that as the days tick on, though, it's hard not to be concerned if you're a fan.
Sure.
Why is it contentious? When do you think it's going to get done?
Why is it contentious? I mean, he wants X, they want Y, right? And whatever that delta is why it's contentious. The when is a really interesting thing. And so Dan Quinn, we live in this like content aggregation world that complicates things. So DQ, I think, on the first day of camp was asked about Cosmi, and he mentioned week 1. And so people run with, okay, Sam Cosmi might be able to return from that blown out knee as soon as week 1.
Yeah.
But then DQ clarified yesterday or today, the days kind of start to blend together, but what Dan was talking about more was like roster operations. And so Cosmi can be on the PUP list like he is now, and it doesn't impact their roster, right? But when you break camp and you have to have your 53, then you'd have to place a guy on IR. That means he's going to miss at least the first 4 weeks, right? And what he's talking about is like, we're trying to determine when Sam can be available, because if we really think, all right, maybe he can go week 2, week 3, then we don't want to use the IR spot. We'll have to eat that roster spot for a couple weeks, but then we know we can have access to Sam. Right. And what Dan said about Cosmi, he's like, we'll make that determination in about a month, late August. So that just got me thinking, and this is my interpretation of it. So late August is when they're really starting to make their preparations for week 1. And to me, that just feels like, all right, late August is when they really want to have an idea what's going to happen with Terry. Ideally, it happens sooner. Yeah. I mean, let's hope it happens tomorrow or on my drive home. But like, I don't think this is that abnormal. I recognize for fans, Terry has been this beacon during really, really terrible times for the organization.
Really the only stable part of the organization.
Totally. But for AP and DQ, these guys have been here a year, right? Like, God, in there, like, it's terrific what Terry did before we got here, but we've been here a year, and we love Terry. We want to take care of him, but like, do we have to pay him based on all the hardships that went down and what he means to fans? Maybe you end up getting there, but I think it's a really complex thing. I think extensions are really different than like free agency deals, where there's no other bidder to bid this thing up. Like you're trying to extend a contract, so it's just. I think it's really complex. I understand Terry's frustrated. I understand why he's frustrated. But I think fans got to try to see the team's prism on this too, where it's, I was there when Gruden got fired, and I was there when they had to change the name. Like all these things that Terry had to deal with and answer these questions that sucked, that he had no business answering. But like, these guys weren't there for that. So I think it's just really complex.
Do you think Terry's a $30 million wide receiver?
Yeah, I think it's a market.
Yeah. With DK and Garrett getting paid over the summer and everything like that?
Dude, like, I mean, you can go back to the Kirk stuff when people, I don't remember what the tag was then. Say it was 20 or 18 or 50, whatever it was. Yep. And people were like, oh, you can't pay Kirk that much. Like, that's just the market. I think Terry's a way better receiver than Kirk was at quarterback. So, you want to buy a house, houses are expensive. Like that, it just, I don't know.
It goes up with
the cost of everything goes up. Yeah.
What do you think of Vaughn when he came in? Because I thought, honestly, I was picturing Vaughn to stay at Buffalo for the rest of his career, pre-ACL injury, of course, because he inked that massive 6-year contract. Then the ACL injury happens. He has a down year. Well, really, he has two seasons following, a year where he barely touches the field, and then last season where he gets 6 sacks. Does Von Miller need to be a double-digit sack guy for the Commanders D-line, who already, I think, was like 11th or 12th in sacks last year, to be even more successful than they were?
I don't think Von Miller will be a double-digit sack. Maybe, that'd be terrific. I don't think they're counting on that. I think they want late-game big plays.
Third down in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. I mean, think about how many games went down to the wire where this offense proved they can get up and down the field. Like, if you have a surefire Hall of Famer that's able to generate, and I asked about it the other day, and he talked about it. He said, which was pretty funny, like, quarterbacks are the worst ball handlers in the NFL. So for me, it's all about strip sacks. Like, it's, if you can create turnovers, and then Washington is clinging to a 3-point lead, and they're able to score again because they get the ball in an advantageous, part of the field, that is the type of game changer you want Von Miller to be. And I think it was 6 sacks last year in Buffalo. He had the huge play in that Bills-Ravens playoff game.
Yes, he did.
The fumble recovery where he almost housed it. I think you want big plays from Vaughn. I think they're going to be really smart about managing his snaps, what they ask him to do. And I think it's a big addition. Dante Fowler was their leading sack guy last year, but like, depending on what analytics you trust, you could say that he was minus on the WAR scale.
Right.
I think they got way better against the run. I think the addition of Von Miller was something I had mentioned months ago. Like, I think they're going to bring in one of these guys as we get closer to camp. Didn't surprise me, and I thought Miller's comments on you don't leave Josh Allen to go just anywhere.
To any other quarterback, yeah.
I think that tells a lot about kind of the belief around the league and what's being built here. And I think it helps tremendously.
In that, with Jaden, I think there's been a lot of chatter about the sophomore slump, especially like what we saw to C.J. Stroud last year. You know, do you think he's too poised to be able to have a sophomore slump?
Dude, I think that conversation is like so dumb. Specific to Stroud, you know what like coaches and execs care about is winning.
Winning football games.
And Houston, like we get, because of fantasy was like the precursor, and now like player props, like so much of our conversation gets dictated by like
money lines.
Well, just like individual statistical performances, and that's just not what people in the league are driven by. And so the Texans get back to the divisional round. Like I have a hard time, you know, thinking D'Amico Ryans believes Stroud had a sophomore slump.
Right.
And specific to Jaden, I don't see it happening. I think the guys you see regress, like actual regression, and not, I think you can get caught up in like numbers, right? So what Jaden threw for like almost 3,600 yards last year, ran for almost 900. This O-line's way better. The reason in the second half of the season, Jaden was their leading rusher almost every game, maybe in every game. Like, hopefully he does run for less yards.
Yeah.
Hopefully he finishes his rushing total around like 650, 700. Is that a regression? Right? Like,
No.
And if they run the ball way better and they don't have to rely on the pass as much, and he throws for 3,700 yards and doesn't pop 4,000, like, is that a regression? I just think, excuse me, I don't see it. I think guys that actually regress are guys that don't put the work in, and I think Jaden is like a nonstop football terminator. Like, he's programmed to just focus on football, and I don't see it happening. You can replay this clip if he does.
Have you ever seen a guy of his age be that meticulous about his preparation?
I don't know. In the teams I've covered, they obviously had quarterbacks that were super focused. Alex Smith was the best at like understanding how to win football games, and then obviously he had the terrible injury. Kirk put the most into his preparation, but I've never seen a dude that carries himself like Jaden and is so focused on football all the time. I never have.
What do you think is a successful season for the Commanders this year?
Playoffs? I think
just playoffs?
Well, what is that? I mean, I don't know. Like winning a playoff game, I suppose. You know, the bar has been raised so high, but pro football is played on such razor-thin margins that, like, if they get to the wild card game and the Bucs return 2 punts for touchdowns and they lose, like, does that mean it wasn't a successful season? Like, I just think trying to define football seasons, which are like their own living, breathing organisms and shift week to week, I think trying to define them with like a X makes it successful and Y makes it not is just like an oversimplification of what is like an incredibly complex 18-week death march.
Yeah. We got two more.
I hope that's not a cop-out. I think they should make the playoffs. I think they should win a playoff game.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's a cop-out at all. I just think a lot of people are saying NFC Championship or bust again on social media.
I think that's an oversimplification.
Yeah.
I think, dude, what if they get 2 terrible pass interference calls in a divisional game?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors in football.
Yeah.
Like, dude, the Lions last year, was that not a successful season because they lost at home?
No,
in the
they were
round?
dominant in the regular season.
And I mean, like 9 of their defensive starters got hurt in the last month of the season. Like,
they were hobbled.
Success gets tough to determine in sports because at the end, there's only one dude holding the championship trophy.
So do you think then that social media has really watered down the way that we look at football then, because it's gone as, because now you said it with stats, sophomore slump, right, all that stuff.
The stats, I think, really is fantasy betting driven. why stats are like the only thing people care about.
But even still, that's all in this new digital age.
Sure.
I mean, do you think that?
So watering it down, I would say no, because people also have way more access to learn real football stuff.
Yeah.
Like if you just go to your Instagram Discover page and type in like O-line, like the amount of people now providing like, maybe some of it's bad, but a lot of it's really good, like in-depth O-line analysis.
Yeah.
Like when I was a kid, you didn't get that. You know, like that stuff didn't exist.
Right,
I think
StatMuse.
Right,
Yeah.
dude. Like the depth of coverage is also so much better. Like the amount. Like when I was a kid, I read the Washington Post sports page every day, and that was I did that, and I watched George Michael at 6:45.
Right.
Like that was how we got our coverage. Now it's nonstop. So, you know, I think there's a good and a bad. There's two sides of every coin.
Two more, because it's hot as hell, like you said. We're gonna get you out of here after this. Proudest or favorite moment in your coverage as a journalist, as a reporter? Your whole career.
My whole career. Couple favorite moments, I guess. The locker room after the Detroit win last year was really cool.
Yeah.
As was the locker room after the Bucks win, just finally winning a playoff game for the first time in 20 years. One of the coolest moments, though, I'll never forget it, was Ron's second to last year, I think, when they were like trying to make this late playoff run with Heineke, and I think the Eagles might have been undefeated, and they went to Philly on Monday night and beat the Eagles. And I just remember in the locker room after, this moment's like burned in my brain. Jeremy Reeves, they had like the big boombox thing, and they were playing Dreams and Nightmares in Philly in the locker room, and they were all just going nuts. And like typically, as soon as the media gets in the locker room, everybody's got their phones out, just like videotaping everything.
Right.
And I don't believe like PR said we couldn't. I think just everybody just like stopped and took the moment in, which was really neat. I've broken some big stories, which is always cool. That's what you want to do as a reporter. But my favorite moment might be the Atlanta Super Bowl. So I'm going back a little bit.
Yep.
Where the Rams lost to the Patriots. It was like 10-3.
It was
a
a very
game.
low-scoring affair. Yeah,
13-3. Yeah. But like that week, and I think it was the second year we did this. It might have been the first. This was when I just did the podcast, it was Redskins talk then. I mean, how long ago does that seem? I think, I don't quote me on this, but if we weren't the first, we were one of the first podcasts to go to Radio Row and just stream a show and just like give content to the digital audience. And now you go to Radio Row at Super Bowl, and I bet it's 70% podcasts and like 30% radio stations. Like I feel like I've always had a good idea on content, and as long as you produce really good content, like people are going to find it in the digital age, which I think is one of the best parts. But at that Super Bowl, so we did Radio Row, and we got Joe Gibbs that week. And Joe Gibbs had recently suffered a death in the family and was really upset. He was going through a really tough time. And so it was B. Mitch and I doing the podcast, and we had Gibbs with us. And then Mark Schlereth happened to walk by. And I feel like a lot of people remember Schlereth with the Broncos, but he won a Super Bowl here in '91 with the Skins. And that's the Super Bowl B. Mitch won. Obviously, Gibbs was coaching. And so Stink just sat down, like impromptu. And, you know, at that point, you've got Gibbs, the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest coaches ever, criminally underrated for what he did. Every other coach with 3 Super Bowl rings or more did it with the same quarterback. For what Gibbs did is never going to be replicated. But you've got Gibbs with 3, Schlereth with 3, B's got 1, so you got 7 Super Bowl rings on the table, and these guys are just talking and enjoying themselves. And I knew enough to just shut up and let it go.
Yeah.
But the one thing I was trying to be mindful of was Gibbs, his PR guy that's worked with him a long time, who's an absolutely great guy, had told us, I don't remember what the time was. Say it was like he sat down with us at 1 for talking sake, and he's like, hey, Joe's got to be out at 1:15 because he was going to do Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins is one of the biggest
motivational,
Right. And the only thing I'm trying to be mindful of is the clock, because I want to be fair to Joe and his rep. And we get to it, and I kind of duck off camera, and I'm like, and he's like, just keep going. Joe needs this. And so in some fashion facilitate that at a time of need for a guy like Coach Gibbs. It's given this area so much and Burgundy Gold fans so much. That is still just one of the absolute favorite moments of my career.
Last one. That JP Finlay that was reading the Washington Post, that was turning on George Michael, what do you think he would say if he saw you right now? I don't know. Probably pretty surprised.
My path was not. It's funny, dude. In the Channel 4 tent, we have like all these interns coming up, and it's great that they're able to get this access. But like, that was not my path, and I'm not a traditional TV guy. Like, I still don't know what a VOSOT is. One of these days, I'll learn that. Going back to, in no way am I trying to slam digital media or social media, because that's like how I got to this spot, and I just think the doors are so much more open now. Like, anybody can create their own YouTube page, create their own content. And I'm all for meritocracy, and I don't know. I think it's been a cool ride. Not going anywhere, but been a cool ride so far.
What would you say to him?
Don't skip so much high school. Try to be a better student. It took me a while to kind of grow up and figure out what I needed to do. Yeah.
Cool.
Thanks, man.
JP Finlay on the Sportswrap Sit Downs. Thanks so much, guys. We will tap in with you, James Catato, for another one. See you soon.